In a quiet town in Oklahoma, a story unfolded that shook not only the local community, but the entire country. This is the tale of a little girl named Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs, whose short life became a symbol of tragedy and injustice. Kelsey was born on December 28, 2002, at 10 p.m. Her mother, Raye Smith, had just divorced Lance Briggs and wasn't sure who the child's father was. The girl came into the world as a charming little bundle, 19 inches long and weighing 7 pounds 1 ounce. When Kelsey turned 3 months old, a paternity test confirmed that Lance was her biological father. Kelsey's story is inextricably linked to her family's troubled past. The girl's paternal grandmother, Kathie Briggs, had a complicated life. In 1973, at about 17 years old, Kathie gave birth to her first daughter, Shreya, by her boyfriend, Kevin Robinson. A year later, her second daughter, Gina, was born, but not from Kevin. Despite this, Kathie and Kevin got married in April 1977. Their son, Raymond Lance, was born, and in August 1978, their daughter Robin was born. Again, not from Kevin. Kathie's life was full of dramatic events. In 1979, she divorced Kevin, who wanted joint custody of the children. Kathie refused, and soon after, Kevin was found dead from a gunshot wound. Kathie claimed he was depressed due to not being able to see his children, but her subsequent actions raised doubts about the true cause of Kevin's death. After Kevin's death, Kathie brought her children to the Pottawatomie County Courthouse and shouted, "Take these children or I'll kill each of them." The Department of Human Services took the children and Kathie rarely visited them, preferring to party. Later, she met a man named Royce Briggs, whom she married and with whom she regained custody of her children. Kathie's son, Lance, officially changed his surname to Briggs in 2000 and married Raye Dawn Smith on July 15th. Lance and Raye were high school sweethearts, dating when he was a senior and she was a sophomore. After his graduation, they parted ways. However, fate brought them back together 2 years later at a party after Raye had also graduated. Their rekindled romance quickly led to an engagement, and they moved in together. It was during this time that Raye discovered Lance's drug addiction and his true nature as a domestic abuser. He subjected her to daily physical abuse, leaving visible signs of his violence, such as black eyes and bruises, which Raye's college classmates frequently noticed. After enduring 2 years of this torment, Raye found the strength to kick Lance out in March of 2002. However, Lance broke into their shared home while Raye was away and left a threatening note, coercing her to take him back, which she did in April. Within a month, Raye realized that staying with him would likely result in her death, so she kicked him out once more and filed for divorce. Raye provided the following statement about their relationship. "I married Raymond Lance Briggs in July of 2000. That same month, I lost my first child at 3 months gestation due to a blow to the stomach from Lance's fist. Aside from that incident, he had hit me on numerous occasions, resulting in black eyes, a bruised rib, hair being pulled out, and he would break many of my cherished possessions throughout the house. He even threw my Pomeranian dog against the wall once. One summer, he busted my nose at the river in front of all our friends. I finally had enough of all of that and left. I went to live back with my parents." A few weeks later, Lance broke into the house we had lived in while we were married and broke a bathroom mirror, threw groceries all over the kitchen, and tossed stuff into the pond and creek, as well as some school albums. After the separation, Lance moved on with his life, having been unfaithful to Raye with an 18-year-old girl whose name will be withheld for privacy reasons. He gave Raye no further thought. However, his mother, Kathie, took it upon herself to defend her son. Upon hearing that Raye was sharing details of the abuse she suffered at Lance's hands, Kathie began spreading rumors about Raye, calling her derogatory names like Warpon Dave and Jock Termite. Shortly after the divorce was finalized, Raye discovered she was pregnant. During her first separation from Lance, she had begun dating another man, leaving her uncertain about the baby's paternity. Kathie confronted Raye, claiming she had heard a rumor that the baby could be Lance's and demanded that Raye take a paternity test after the baby's birth. Raye, also wanting to know the truth, willingly agreed. Lance, meanwhile, told everyone he hoped the baby wasn't his, so he could move on with his life. On December 28, 2002, at 10 o'clock in the evening, Raye gave birth to a beautiful baby girl measuring 19 inches and weighing 7 pounds, whom she named Kelsey Shelton Smith. When Kelsey was 3 months old, a paternity test confirmed that Lance was indeed her father. It was Kathie, not Lance, who then demanded that Raye add Briggs to Kelsey's name. Lance did call Raye and, referring to Kathie, stated, "It will have my last name." Raye complied, and Kelsey became known as Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs. Another month passed, and the Briggs family made no effort to visit or check on Kelsey. Raye then reached out to Kathie, asking if they wanted to see Kelsey. Kathie agreed, and in April of 2003, when Kelsey was 4 months old, the Briggs family finally met her. This marked the beginning of their troubles. When Raye left Lance and shared with others the kind of person he truly was, Kathie developed a grudge against Raye that persists to this day. It began with name-calling and rumor spreading. After Kelsey's arrival, Kathie's desire to remove Raye from the picture intensified, as she wanted to take Kelsey away from her mother. For the first 2 years of Kelsey's life, Kathie stalked Raye, following her to school, work, and anywhere else she went. In June of 2003, Lance married his second wife, and Kathie instructed her new daughter-in-law to follow Raye and call the Smith house in search of her. During this time, Raye's father, Raye Smith, was battling cancer, and Kathie or her daughter-in-law would call and harass Raye. Kathie made false reports to DHS and the police about Raye, attempting to portray her as an unfit mother and have Kelsey taken away. In one instance, Kathie followed Raye while driving and called in a report claiming that Raye was driving erratically and at excessive speeds. Unbeknownst to Kathie, a police car on the same road observed no such behavior. Eventually, Kathie was advised that if she wanted to gain custody of Kelsey, she should initiate a custody battle. To Kathie, this sounded like a promising course of action. Despite his drug addiction and violent behavior, in August 2004, Lance was drafted into the Army and sent to Iraq. This seemed strange given his problems, but military service didn't change his character or attitude toward his family. In October 2004, Raye met Michael Lee Porter and began dating him. This marked the beginning of the most tragic period in little Kelsey's life. In January 2005, the first serious incident occurred. Kelsey broke her collarbone, allegedly falling out of her crib. This incident became a pretext for Kathie to accuse Raye of child abuse. The court temporarily transferred custody of Kelsey to the Briggs family. The period of Kelsey's stay under the Briggs' care became the darkest time in her short life. The girl's health deteriorated rapidly. She lost weight, and her hair started falling out. In April 2005, Kelsey was found to have fractures in both legs. Raye fought to get her daughter back. She took parenting classes, attended counseling, and did everything possible to prove her fitness as a mother. In June 2005, Raye managed to regain custody of Kelsey. October 11, 2005, became the darkest day in Kelsey's short life. At 2:45 in the afternoon, Raye left to pick up her stepdaughter from school, leaving Kelsey sleeping in her bed. The trip was supposed to take 40 to 50 minutes. The girl was left alone with Michael Porter. On the way, Raye stopped at the post office and saw that documents for Kelsey's physical therapy had arrived. When Raye returned home, she saw her mother there, along with an ambulance and paramedics. She asked her mother what had happened, and Gayla replied that Michael had told her Kelsey had had a seizure. The girl was taken to the hospital, where they worked on her for another 45 minutes. At 4:45 in the afternoon, Kelsey was pronounced dead. Raye, who was pregnant with Michael's child at the time, entered the room, held Kelsey in her arms, rocked her, and through tears asked, "Why did God take my child?" 2 hours later, as she was getting into the car, Mike asked about the autopsy. "They're not going to cut her open, are they?" Raye replied, "I need to know what was wrong with her." After this, Michael pretended to have 2 heart attacks and fainted. The autopsy of Kelsey's body showed that death resulted from blunt force trauma to the abdomen. However, this wasn't the only shocking discovery. Later, during the investigation, photographs and videos of the child were found on Michael Porter's computer. This led to the examination of Kelsey's body to check for signs of sexual abuse. The results of this examination were horrifying. Evidence of sexual abuse of Kelsey was found. Sexual assault charges were added to Michael's murder charge. This discovery added a new, even more tragic dimension to the already horrific story of the little girl. Kathie Briggs, who learned of Kelsey's death, called Lance within half an hour and informed him. At that time, Lance was undergoing drug rehabilitation in Fort Benning, Georgia. He was sent home that same evening. Then Kathie called the police and reported that Kelsey's death was a murder and that it was committed by Kathie's former daughter-in-law, Raye. After Kelsey's death, a fierce battle began between the Smith and Briggs families. Kathie created a website called Kelsey's Purpose, where she began spreading her version of events, accusing Raye of everything from abusing Kelsey to murdering her. As a result of the trial, Michael Porter pleaded guilty and received 30 years in prison. However, the most shocking turn was that Raye, who wasn't present at the time of Kelsey's death, was also sentenced to 27 years in prison for enabling child abuse. Raye's verdict became a glaring example of the injustice of the judicial system. A woman who loved her daughter and fought for her well-being ended up behind bars, while the real culprits of the tragedy remained at large. After Kelsey's death, Lance Briggs continued to demonstrate his true nature. Instead of mourning the loss of his daughter, he focused on financial gain from the tragedy. Lance filed a lawsuit against social services for $15 million. When he was awarded $625,000, he spent the money on a new house, a car, and entertainment in strip clubs instead of honoring his daughter's memory or helping other children in similar situations. Kelsey's story didn't end with a verdict. Raye and her family continue to fight for justice, trying to prove her innocence. Meanwhile, Kathie Briggs continues her campaign, using Kelsey's memory for her own purposes. The tragic fate of Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs became a symbol of the imperfection of the child protection system and the danger of manipulation in family conflicts. Her short life left a deep mark in the hearts of many people and continues to raise questions about justice and the protection of the most vulnerable members of society. Today, years after Kelsey's death, her story continues to move people. Raye Dawn Smith remains in prison, continuing to assert her innocence. She doesn't lose hope for justice and continues to fight for her release. Kathie Briggs and her supporters continue their campaign despite growing doubts about their version of events. They use Kelsey's memory as a tool to achieve their own goals, ignoring the true interests of the child they supposedly seek to protect. This story reminds us of the importance of critical thinking and how easily truth can be lost in a whirlwind of emotions and personal interests. It also underscores the need to reform the child protection and judicial systems to prevent similar tragedies in the future. But most importantly, this story reminds us of a little girl whose life was too short. Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs was a bright, loving child whose smile could light up any room. She loved to play, draw, and hug her mom. Her life, though short, was full of love and joy that she gave to everyone around her. Kelsey's story is not just a tale of tragedy, but also of the power of love and dedication. It's a story about a mother who continues to fight for justice for her daughter, even while behind bars. It's a story about a family that united in grief and in the fight for truth. Every year, on Kelsey's birthday and on the day of her death, people gather to honor her memory. They light candles, release balloons into the sky, and share memories of the little girl who touched so many hearts in her short life. Kelsey's tragedy also drew attention to the problem of domestic violence and child abuse. Her story became a catalyst for creating new programs and initiatives aimed at protecting children and supporting families in crisis situations. Despite all the efforts of Kathie Briggs and her supporters to tarnish the memory of Kelsey and her mother, many people continue to believe in Raye Dawn Smith's innocence. They see her as a loving mother who became a victim of an unjust system and manipulation by others. The story of Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs is a reminder of how important it is to protect the most vulnerable members of our society. It's a call to action for all of us to be vigilant, to speak the truth, and to fight for justice even when it seems that all odds are against us. Kelsey may no longer be with us physically, but her spirit lives on in the hearts of those who loved her and in the actions of those who continue to fight for justice on her behalf. Her short life left an indelible mark on this world, reminding us of the value of each child and our responsibility to protect them. May the memory of Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs be an eternal reminder of the need for love, compassion, and justice in our world. And may her story continue to inspire people to fight for truth and protect the innocent so that no other child has to suffer as she did. In the end, Kelsey's story is about how one little girl could change the world. Her short life and tragic death became a catalyst for change, for reflection, for action. And although the price of these changes was too high, we can only hope that because of this, other children will be better protected and justice will be more accessible to all. Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs, 2002 to 2005. May she rest in peace, but may her story continue to live on, reminding us of our responsibility to the most vulnerable members of our society. Because every child deserves a happy childhood, love, and protection, and we all bear the responsibility to ensure this. Friends, thank you for watching the video to the end. Please don't forget to put a like under this video and share your opinion in the comments. This will help promote the channel and make more interesting videos for you.